Hello, my name is Rodney Berry. I have started a new political page here on Facebook, but actually I was planning on doing this for quite a while, but I've took it too slow a pace, I guess. I was procrastinating too long, and now the DNC has a massive campaign out, and they're accusing Republicans, independents, whoever, they're accusing everyone of lying. And we see in the news the obviousness of Hillary and her husband and Obama dealing with Russia and dealing with Iran, taking millions of dollars. This was called espionage. This was called a double agency, centuries ago and now today. This has been considered to be espionage, treason. And Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton have taken millions of dollars while Hillary is in office and put into their Fund Me Foundation, the Clinton Fund Me Foundation, to where they're paying their daughter $4 million a year to operate and be the CEO of the Clinton Foundation. And then Bill and Hillary get $1 million of that kicked back to them each year. That's the way they're laundering this money that's being given to them by Iran and by Russia. Iran was given billions of dollars by Obama, and Iran took that money and split it with their ally Russia. And then Russia gave $150 million to Hillary. This was the plan of them getting illegal money, but yet Hillary was in office, and it is written a federal law, a law that if you do such acts, you are a treasonous character claiming to be an American citizen when you're really acting with enemy foreign nations that are enemies of America. But as I say, the DNC has started a campaign where they have normal looking people that are quoting lies written for them by the DNC, and they're they're spreading it on my page. There's pages showing up on my website that I did not like, that I did not follow, that are showing up on my personal website that's advertising for the DNC, and I never, ever followed or even went to those sites. This is the campaign going against the Republicans by Democrats. But everyone has their reason why they became either Democrat or Republican or independent or just a liberal. There's many reasons, and there's many people that feel correct, and many of them are. To be a liberal, there is some people out there you can set that are liberals, and they will make a lot of sense, and I will say that's a great idea. But then the liberals come along that are in power, and they are extreme liberals, and they're extreme liars, and they're extremely treasonous. They're literally helping foreign powers prepare to send America into chaos, while they now search for a sanctuary city, a sanctuary country around the earth, because they feel the heat of their treasonous act catching up with them. Obama now, when he speaks around the earth, he's like looking over his shoulder, and his voice is trembling, like he's wondering, when are they going to come arrest me? They are wondering, when are we going to be arrested for this bold theft from the American people and this bold act of helping our borders stay open so Arabic people from Iran and different nations can slip over the border. Now, I have some evidence for this, so I'm going to go on to try to do this quickly in this video, but I'm going to start this ball rolling. If you want to prove or convince us why you became a Democrat, why you became a liberal, why you became an independent, do so with a video of yourself discussing why you became this person. And if not, filming yourself and discussing this, show us a verifiable link that will prove why you think Democrats should have the right to be treasonous and why Hollywood should have the right to control Washington. Prove to us with these links of why you became a Democrat, why you became a Republican, whatever the case may be. Now, here I made a very short list. Now, my family, my father at least, years ago, in the 60s, when I was a very young boy, he was very much enthralled by John F. Kennedy. And he had apparently became a Democrat. Now, my ancestors go way back into the 1800s and before, to where my ancestors are literally in the Book of Lincoln, to where they were fighting in wars alongside Abraham Lincoln, and then they went on to work with Abraham Lincoln after the war and different things. But then my father, in the 60s, he became a Democrat. So at that time, when people would ask me what I thought when I got in my early teens, they would say, "What do you think about this? What do what is your family? What are you?" And I would pop it out of my mouth because my father told me that he wanted to be a Democrat due to John F. Kennedy. And then I said, well, okay, I'll follow my dad on that issue. But then it turns out I began to put two and two together and running into things in our own society here in America that are very periling and very disastrous for our nation. And it's being promoted and literally caused by the DNC and the Democrats and the liberal Democrats in Hollywood. And I mean, I have proof that's happened to me in my life. But let me start here. This is to show you how our country is in danger. Horrible danger of being destroyed. Now, when I had just turned 10 years old, my mother and father had moved into a mansion that was owned by a man that owned a chain of cinemas, a chain of theaters in St. Louis, Missouri. But he decided to sell his house, which now this is over 50 years ago when we moved in there. Me as a small boy, but the home was already well over 100 years old. But it was a mansion, had a large property, many garages, had an iron gate and a wall around all it. It was a very nice property still, but it was 100-something years old. But the man decided he wanted to sell it and get out of there. Well, as soon as my family moved in there, just months later, my mother and father divorced and my father left, and he went on a vacation for a while, which ended up causing him to lose his company eventually. And then after me and my mother and my brothers, we had to finally, and my sisters, we had to move out of this mansion eventually, many months later. But I found out why the man wanted to move, because the city of St. Louis had built a very large project down the street, and the riots of the 60s were building in St. Louis. The riots of the Africans, the Cushites in America, that they wanted to riot and burn St. Louis, and they was demanding this, demanding that. And I was in peril just to go to school. One day I went to school, which I had to usually run my way to school and run my way back home. But this particular day, coming home from school, like I say, I was just slightly over 10 years of age. Suddenly a man sprung out of a hallway between two buildings, and he tried to grab me, and I run across the street. And then he said, and he had an accent. I don't know if he was Jamaican. I don't know if he was African. I don't know what he was. But he began to chase me. And I'm terrified. I'm just a boy. And I decided to cut into these people's homes. And I ran into their backyards. And I was so terrified as a young man. And back in those days, a 4-foot chain link fence is what people wanted, basically. And I was so terrified and so full of adrenaline, I was literally hurdling these fences with one bound as I'm running. And this man's coming over these fences and chasing me. And the whole time he's screaming, "I am going to F you. I am going to kill you. And my people are taking this nation. And you are all going to die." And I was a 10-year-old boy, and this man was either in his late 20s or in his 30s. And I was in terror, But I ran through these homes, and finally I jumped into a yard to where some dogs were, and the dogs come running at me. But this stopped that man, and I went and crawled over the other fence, and these dogs were trying to attack this man. And then he screamed at me as I was continuing through these people's yards. He was telling me, I will be destroying you and your family. I will kill you all, and I'm going to do this and that to you. All these vulgar things he was telling this young, red-haired, strawberry blonde-haired boy he was going to do to him. Well, now that's just one instance. I left that behind. I never thought about it much for years. I was very, I always watched my surroundings, and it was a very terrifying event for me. I never even told my mother about it because she worked late, and I finally didn't tell her about it. But then we had to move into a 2-bedroom apartment after we left that home, and I was maybe 12 years old at the time, and I met a Hispanic family, and I loved the Hispanic people. They accepted me into their life, these young teenage and these young children of this family, a very large Hispanic family, full of girls and boys, and I had a great love for them. And their parents was talking always about the coming, what were they talking about? The coming revolution. Now this that I tell you will finally lead to what took place with the Fast and Furious program that Eric Holder and Barack Obama devised after they met with the Mexican government as soon as Obama had taken office. It will lead us there. But as I'm listening to these older Hispanic men talking, they're talking about the coming revolution and how they couldn't wait for the revolution because they was taking America and this was their place and all these things. And I thought, wow, that's terrible, that you're saying that. But then I had to change schools and I was being attacked in that neighborhood. And finally I was attacked one day and I had to defend myself and I was kicked out of a school, they said, for fighting and rioting when I had merely went into a restroom in my school and I was attacked by a gang of young men, Cushites, different people, attacking me. And I had to fight my way out of that bathroom and I got out into the hallway and the fight. And it turns out they were fighting about us and they was talking about they were going to riot and they was going to take over America and this land was theirs now. And I barely escaped home. But I was kicked out of that school collectively with these people because I had defended myself. They said that I was fighting and rioting. Well, let's fast forward. They kicked me out of a school, I was put in my last school. They said, if you cannot survive at this school, you are going to a juvenile detention home. I said, well, I got to make it here, man. I just got to do everything I can to make it here. And I had to walk, many miles to get to this school. And when I started that school, I was the only white child in that school. And when I got there, all the young Cushite boys and girls kept telling me, wait till Mighty Joe gets hold of you. Wait until Mighty Joe gets a hold of you. I said, well, ain't this great? I wonder who this Mighty Joe is, And I'm just sitting on a bench. I'm not bothering anybody. And they're coming by and they're trying to take my lunch from me, all these things, and I'm pushing their hands away and all. And that's what was upsetting them because they told me, give me your lunch. I said, man, this is my lunch. Well, you don't give me your lunch, Mighty Joe is going to get you. And I'm saying, who in the heck is this Mighty Joe? Well, probably a week later, and Mighty Joe's back from suspension. And it turns out Mighty Joe was an 18-year-old Cushite male who had failed many grades, and he's in the 7th grade at that age. And he is told that I would not surrender and give up my everything from my butt to my lunch to these people. So Mighty Joe come to me, and I said, what are you doing? They gathered around me, and he said, you think you're somebody special? Said, you're white, we're black, we own this place. You give us what we tell you to give us, or your butt is dead. And I looked at him for a minute, and he come forward and said, let me show you what I mean. I fell back over that bench. I jumped over the fence. They were tearing my clothes off, all these things. I got away from them, and I ran home, and I told my mother, we got to do something. I can't go to this school. And if I get thrown out, they told me they're putting me in this juvenile detention or juvenile prison, whatever they was calling it. And this is just because I was going from school to school in St. Louis during the 60s when all of the racial tension, the blacks were just pounding the inner cities and attacking, raping, harming everyone in that particular situation. So my mother contacted my father in Texas and said, look, Rodney's got to come to you or they're going to put him in a juvenile detention center. I said, well, this is great. My father said, okay, send him to me. I come to Texas. My father had lost his business. He had done his thing in St. Louis. He had lost his construction business and everything, so he was no longer living in a mansion, but he had some nice women around him and stuff that he liked, so be it. But I started school, and the first thing I find is I am a very small minority and a very high Hispanic school. High percentage of Hispanics in this school. So next thing I know, I'm being pushed, I'm being shoved, and they're saying, we're going to get you after school, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do that. And naturally, I was the kind of kid that my brother taught me, if I would do that, he would whoop my butt when I got home if I allowed anybody to abuse me and me not take care of the situation. So I immediately went and I talked to the principal. I wouldn't tell him, man, you know, I've come down from the frying pan into the fire because I've got men, you know, people threatening me. He told me, who are they? I told him. Didn't work out real well because they didn't do anything about them telling me, yet they talked to the kids, but they didn't, you know, suspend them, didn't kick them out of school or anything, and then that turned up the heat. They said, we're going to get you, we're going to get you, we're going to get you. And finally, a gang of men and boys showed up to the school one day. By this time, I had finally just turned 14 years of age, and I'm in Texas, and this gang shows up, and they surround me, and I've got my little stepsisters with me, my father's new wife's daughters, they're with me. And I told them, I said, man, you know, just let my little sisters out of here. Just let them get out of this crowd here. I said, open up, let them out of this crowd. And I got all my books in my hand. This is leading to a point I'm making here. Anyway, they finally, some of them became human beings, and they let my little sisters out of the crowd, but then they re-surrounded me again. And I said, what's the problem? They said, you're new here, man. We found out that you wouldn't take so-and-so and let him do whatever, you know, you smarted off to so-and-so. I said, no, he told me that I was white and that they ruled and all that. I said, man, I don't want to hear all that. I said, I'm here to learn. I want to just go to school. Leave me alone. Well, one guy says, hey, man, look over here. You want to fight me? And I looked over there. 2 Hispanic young men attacked me. And I'm fighting. Next thing I know, here comes the principal. Very brave man to come out there into such a massive crowd of, like I say, some of these men were, some of them were white men, and they were men, but the majority were Hispanic, but apparently they hung around with this gang. The principal breaks it up. He tells me, what's the problem here? I said, sir, I talked to you about it. I told you that they was, you know, telling me that I was going to do what I was told or else. I said, they was grabbing me, pushing me, and I just pushed my way out of the boys' bathroom. And since then, they've told me they're going to get me. He says, okay. He said, hopefully this is over. And his name was Mr. Gaden. He was a very old man, but he stood very strong that day for me, and he got me out of that trouble. But it was probably 4 days later, I'm coming to school. I've got my books in my hand again, and I've convinced my father to where I told him that as soon as we get to the parks, I want the girls to go on way ahead of me and go to school, you know, because they wanted me to walk them to school to protect them. That's all I said, I think I'm somebody who needs to be protected here. But I got to the park that was connected to the school, and I told my little sisters to go on to the school, to go up there, and they was crying. They was worried about me. My little stepsisters, I began to love them very quickly, and they were my family. But as I was heading up to school, I see this guy coming across the field towards me. Good-sized man, and he was a man, truly. He was 18, 19 years old, and he's coming towards me. But I had convinced myself to make a weapon that wouldn't get me in too much trouble if it was found on me because of that huge crowd of people, and they all had knives and stuff, clubs all that day. But I had a Yale lock, a great big Yale lock, and I'd put it on the end of a very large choke chain that's used for dogs to choke them, and they'll stay still, you know, used as a dog collar. And I put that Yale lock on there, and I had it in my pocket, And I had been practicing with it, you know. I was practicing to protect myself. And this this young man comes across me. He just got out of prison, apparently. And he found out that his little brother, one of the men that was in the crowd that was there, he was upset at me fighting with them and not taking the beating and the molesting they wanted to do to me. So he comes across there, and I said, man, what do you want? Next thing I know, he comes out with this huge knife, and he says, I heard you think you're tough. I said, man, I'm trying to just go to school here. Get away from me. He says, you don't think I'll kill you? You don't think I'll cut your throat? And he come at me. When he did, I dropped my books, got out my chain and my Yale lock, and I'm slinging it around. I'm whipping it back and forth. I said, dude, I pop you one time in your head with this. You're going to be dead. It's going to land right in your head. I said, get away from me with that knife. And then all of a sudden he steps back and he says, I'll be back. I said, damn, you know, I'm hearing that a lot. Heard it in St. Louis, heard it there. This guy was actually like he was half white, half Hispanic. And he disappears. He says, I'll be back. I said, well, this is fantastic. Now, this is the terrible thing. You see, I had already met some very, loving people that I wanted to love that were Hispanic. Roy Perez, a man that I fell in love with his character immediately, and he had 11 sisters and 2 brothers. But his brothers were gangsters, basically. But Roy was an amazing young man, and Roy liked me, and it shocked me so greatly that day, when I come out of the school, I sent my little sisters to go out first, and then I went out behind him, you know, probably 100 feet or so behind him, and all of a sudden, when I go out that door, I was in shock because like a dark cloud came around the corner, and there was 50, 60 people in this crowd, and there was that man that was that morning with his knife. And they come over there and they surround me again. I said, man, what is you people's problem? I said, I have done nothing to you. Get the heck away from me. And then they said, do you want to fight Ricky? Ricky Cross was his name. They said, do you want to fight Ricky? I said, I don't want to fight nobody. I said, I just want to be left alone. And they said, if you want to fight Ricky, come on down. We're going to go down to his sister's house. It's right down the street here. I told him, I said, let's fight right here if it's going to be like that. I said, why would I go to this man's sister's house to fight with him? They said, no, you want to go down to his sister's house or not? Or are you this sissy? Or we're going to have to burn down your house. We're going to have to do all that. I said, okay, let's go to Ricky's sister's house. But as we're doing this move, I noticed somebody coming from a distance, walking, and he's got a baseball bat in his hand. And, you know, I'm scared to death, just a young boy. But I look, and it's Roy Perez, a young man that I'd only known for, at that time, maybe getting close to 3 months. But we were passionate about each other's friendship. We were loving each other. Loving each other, you know, nothing sick, nothing twisted. We were just really locking in as friends. And here he come with that baseball bat, and they started to jump on him. And I said, Roy, man, just go home. He said, no, Rodney. He says, man, you're by yourself. And I'm so impressed, you know, I'm just developing this great impression of Roy Perez, you know. And the poor man, you know, was murdered just years after this. And I loved him so dearly. But I said, Roy, they're making me go down to this dude's sister's house to fight him. He says, I'll go with you, Rodney. And I said, now here's a brave man. Here's a man that I love, you know. So we go down to this Ricky Cross's sister's house, and lo and behold, they're all around us. They're pushing me from behind, saying, get in there and fight him, get in there and fight him like a man and all this. And then suddenly Ricky comes out with that same knife. So what did I do? I came out with my choke chain and lock. I said, man, I've had it with you, man. You know, I said, let's do it, man. Like I went towards him, and all of a sudden he says, wait a minute, man. And then all those guys start saying, hey, man, you don't want to fight, you know, Or what? You don't want to fight honestly here? You don't want to be an honest, a good, clean fight? As you call a knife a clean fight? And then they said, Ricky, put down your knife. I'm thinking, yeah, that's a clean fight. And shockingly, I was very shocked because I was terrified. And I mean, I was surrounded by these people. Like I say, this is leading to a point. I'm there. They said, here, give me that. And I handed my choke chain to Roy Perez. And Ricky had handed his knife to his people. And they said, okay, go in and fight. And man, I went in there and I knocked Ricky's cross down. First punch, I dropped him to the ground. And then I was trying to get hold of him on the ground. I was going to hit him again. And somebody pushed me from behind, pushed me off of him. And then Ricky jumps up. We're fighting again. I punched him. And he dove on me. And we went to the ground. He was on top of me. And he bites, locks on to my chest, and is biting me like some kind of rabid dog. So I grabbed him in a headlock. And when I did, I went to crushing his neck. And I was a very strong young man, because I even dug ditches at night and on the weekends. And I had become a very strong young man. And I was choking him out. And suddenly he's saying, let me up. And I said, is this it? Is this over with? And he said, no, I'm crushing him. And I told him, I said, I will tear your neck off your head. And finally he says, let me up. I give up. And when I got up, they're all still cussing me and said, now we own you. And these Mexicans are saying, this is the revolution. This is the day of the revolution. You see all the riots going on up east and everything at the time, racial riots. There was a lot of tension. So, like I say, this is leading to a point. I get to where I'm hanging around with Roy, and I met my wife's brother, my future wife's brother, John Robert Martinez, a very wonderful young Hispanic man who did not speak Spanish. And this was a curse upon him because what was taking place with John? He was being attacked by gangs of Mexicans. Why? Why was John, the Hispanic young man, being attacked and abused by gangs? Because he did not speak Spanish and because he did not have an accent. He was told by these men, you think you're white, you think you're an American. If you want to be American, we'll kill you. They called themselves the Wetback Gang. Wetback Gang. And they said they were here to take over America. The coming revolution. Now this is 50 years ago. 50 years ago. But I began, like I say, working, doing my work at night, going to school, working on the weekends, doing all these things. And I was meeting more and more Hispanics because Texas was naturally more occupied by the Hispanic. And I was in love. I've always loved the Hispanic people. I have the Native American blood in my family. My grandmother was almost full-blooded Cherokee Indian. My brother looked Hispanic. My brother looked Native American. My brother looked Italian, whatever you wanted to call it. But mostly my grandfather came out in me, which was a Irishman from, he claimed to be British, but he told us that his blood, it came from Ireland to England into America. But as I'm noticing on these jobs, I'm working with these men, they're offering me money if I will get them what? What would they give me money or drugs for? Whatever I wanted, they'd tell me. What did they want more desperately than anything? Weapons. Guns. They was asking a 14, then 15, then 16, then 17, 18, on into my early 20s. Every Hispanic man that I get close to, they would tell me, can you get us any guns? The revolution's coming. I would tell him, what do you mean revolution, man? He said, we're going to take America. I said, we're taking this place, man. This is ours. I said, no, And now, this day and time, finally, as I've always thought all my life, I said, well, the white people, the white European, Anglo-Saxon, Caucasian, whatever you want to call them, they have covered the world. They've been everywhere. Before Columbus, they found that there was people here in America before Columbus. Now, as they dig deeper in archaeology, they're finding it more and more, which means nothing. We can all, live together, love one another, but we got these people that are in revolution mode. Now, you run into Cushites from Africa, Jamaica. You even find some that are born in America. They also speak of the coming revolution, the coming takeover of America, and they're stockpiling weapons, stockpiling anything they can get hold of. Well, I went on, seen this, and it just kind of set in the back of my mind, and I'd go to someone's house, and there they would have everything from rocket launchers to machine guns, whatever. I run into Jamaicans that had machine guns, all kinds of automatic weapons, and they were really bad people. They were, always selling drugs, all these things, and I come across them, and I had to work around them and stuff, so I was able to see their mindset. They even boldly talked about it. Now, these same Jamaicans, these same Cushites, these same Hispanics, when they're around anyone of authority in America, anyone that has any position in America, they're just standing there. Oh, please help me. Oh, please, just help me. Just save me. Give me everything you can. But then I was down there basically living on their level with my mother and me working to help support my mother and sister because they were sick. And I was trying to get my way to college. But they were doing all this in front of authority. But behind their back, you SOB, we're going to kill you. We're going to kill all your people. The revolution's coming. The comedians back in the 60s, such as Richard Pryor, all these people, they called them comic acts, but they would say in their comic acts, we're going to kill all white people. I want all white people dead. We're going to kill you all. So now let's fast forward a little bit to where I'm working, supporting my young family, and all of a sudden, I'm on a property one day, and this guy who looked just like Saddam Hussein from Iraq. And like I say, fast forward. This is before 9/11. But fast forward, he's living on an all-Hispanic apartment complex, and I was working on that complex, inspecting the structures, inspecting the boiler systems and everything. And I wore a uniform at the time that had a gold badge on it that signified the company I worked for. But this huge Muslim man, he was 6'5", 6'6", whatever, he's coming towards me, and we're a good building away from each other. All of a sudden, he stops, and he tells me, "What are you looking at?" I said, "Well, I'm looking around." I said, "Who's he talking to?" I keep walking towards him. "What are you looking at?" I'm looking around. I said, "Man, surely he's not talking to me." And I kept walking towards him, and he said, "I told you, I'm going to kill you if you don't tell me what you're looking at." I told him, "I am looking at nothing, man. I am inspecting this building here. I am working." And then he looks at me, "You are not the police?" He said, "Go to work." I said, "I'm at work, man." And then I'm walking toward him because he's standing right in the middle of the sidewalk, and suddenly we're face to face, And he says, "Get out of my way before I kill you." I said, "Man, I'm at work." I said, "You get out of my way." I said, "You move out of my way, man." And I was upset. I was getting more upset by the second. And he said, "You don't own me. You don't own this land." I said, "Where is this crap coming from?" He says, "We're taking this land." I said, "Oh my God." I said, "How many times I got to hear that in my life? We're taking this land." I said, "Son of a gun." So I start to go around him, and he said, "No, I told you. He's really said, I ordered you to go back to work." I said, I walked around him, and then I spread my hands out and I bowed, just to be sarcastic. And I said, "Yes, mighty king. I'm going back to work, mighty king." And I walked around, and he lets out a scream. "I'm going to kill you." And he takes off running for his apartment. I said, "My God." So I go to the office, and all these Hispanic men are in there. One of them, I got him his job, but they're in the office there, and I go in there and talk to the woman who's the manager there, and she is a woman from Poland. And she wasn't truly a legalized citizen yet herself. And I want to tell her, I said, this crazy Muslim guy or Arabic guy, whatever he is, I said, he is out here. He's telling me he's going to kill me. And she says, what are you talking about? I said, I'm saying he says he's going to kill me. Call the police. He is a wonderful man. He just left here. I said, what are you talking about? And I looked over these guys that basically worked with me and for the company that I was one of the, executives of the inspection sites there. And they told me, man, are you prejudiced or what? I said, what are you talking about prejudice? I said, somebody tells them they kill me, I'm prejudiced? They said, he's a wonderful man. And then finally I said, man, this is weird. I said, okay, I went and I went, back to work. So I'm in this boiler room. I'm checking out the boiler, turning it on and off. All of a sudden I see a head go by the window of the boiler room. And I said, let me look out the window just to see what this is. And I look, and it's my Saddam insane friend. And what has he got in his hand? A machine gun. And he's asking this lady, did you see this man? I said, oh my God. And my truck's on the other side of the property. I said, man, I'm trapped in this boiler room here. I said, what am I going to do here? So I reached down and I got my screwdriver. And I had this huge long screwdriver, and I stood at the door of the boiler room. I said, if he comes around the corner, the only thing I know to do is stab this in his neck, in his chest, whatever, and hopefully I'll do it quick enough before I am riddled with bullets. Well, I stood there, and, thank the Lord, he didn't come around the corner. So I finally got brave enough. I said, okay, I'm going to make my way to my truck. I went to the truck, got in the truck, I drove to the main office. And I told him, I said, man, there's this nut over there running around machine gun. The same thing starts up again. Man, what are you talking about? We've never had any trouble with anybody over there on that site. I said, man, he thought I was a cop. And he said he was going to kill me. And then he went and got his machine gun. They said, man, I don't know what you're talking about, but we got to get that complex inspected. We're trying to buy it. We're going to take it over and all this stuff. I said, oh, man. I said, this is unbelievable. I said, well, I got my family I'm supporting. I said, I've never run from a fight in my life. I said, okay, I didn't get no gun or anything. I've always had the mind that if I can't take them physically, hopefully I'll be able to do so. But if not, that's the way life goes. But I went back to that property the next day and I had to go on the roof and inspect it. I didn't know what apartment this man lived in. But fortunately, I put up the ladder. I'm going to go up there to inspect the roof. And who comes out the door right underneath the ladder? But Saddam insane. And he comes out and he stares at me and he runs back inside, slams the door. And I was just gritting my teeth. I said, I guess this is the big one. I did keep my screwdriver in my pocket. And I said, man, if he comes out, hopefully he won't come out shooting, And he didn't come out the door. So I went up on the roof and then a weird thing took place. The man moved. He moved overnight. I asked the manager, I said, why did he move? How long did that man live here? She said, Rodney, he'd been here 16 years. A sleeper cell, Islamic sleeper cell, just before 9/11, was sleeping on that property among all the Hispanic, and he was an illegal Arabic man living on this property, and he moves overnight. I said, now this is strange. Now he's commanded or something to move, because I'm thinking about this now. So I go to talk to the management and, they got together with her. And then when she's in front of the managers there, in front of my supervisors and everybody, she is relieved this man's moved. And she said she had been in terror of that man ever since she had worked there. Said she didn't know when he was going to attack her because he would abuse her and cuss her and everything. I told her, that's when I talked to you that day, you told me how wonderful he was. She said, I was scared to say anything in front of the workers because they would tell him that I had called the police and then he would kill me. So many people, this is an example of so many people who say, I love these people, I want to be with them, when they think what they're doing is protecting their own life. They're terrified to say anything against these bad actors that are coming to America. Well, let's fast forward again. I'm at a driving course. I am at a driving class, a defensive driving class, because I had got a ticket, a moving violation ticket to where if I went and took this driving course, they would, cancel the ticket for me. So I'm at this driving course, and I've got a Muslim man sitting next to me at the table, and we're at this one that's all day, and they give you lunch and all this stuff at this meeting. And when we took a lunch break, the man starts whispering to me. He said, "Sir, I am a man from Pakistan. I have been in America for over 20 years. I'm thinking, well, what business is this of mine, He says, "Sir, my people are coming across the southern border, the Mexican border of America by the thousands. And they say they're coming to destroy America." Now, this is just maybe a year before 9/11 at this time. I said, "Wow, man, why is he telling me this stuff, And he says, "Sir, I fear for my life. They hate me. They want me dead. They're going to try to kill me, sir. I don't know what to do, but they want to destroy America." I said, "Okay, this is weird." And I said, "I'm nobody, man." I told him. I said, "You're talking to nobody." I said, "Go to the FBI, go to the government, contact the White House, do something." And he said, "I can't, sir. I'm too afraid." He said, I don't know why he told me himself, "I don't know why I'm telling you this." He said, "But I don't know if they're going to kill me." And he's probably dead. He said they hated him because he was too American. He had lived here too long, and he had become too much of an American, so they were going to kill him. I can only assume the man is dead. I didn't see him anymore after that. But then I couldn't stop thinking about these things all my life. I said, "Man, I've heard about this all these years." And I got a young family now. Now, suddenly when you get kids, these things become important. So I said, okay, my children are in danger. My wife's in danger. I said, you know what? I am going to contact the White House. So I'm going to contact the White House. I waited. First I went to SMU and talked to a few people there. They went cold-faced whenever I brought it up. They just went cold. I mean, they're terrified. See, these people in positions to where they know they're surrounded by people that are cutthroats. Like there was a doctor murdered yesterday on his bicycle by a man on another bicycle. I say, and this has happened recently here in Dallas, Texas, and it's happening around the world where professionals, doctors, scientists, biologists, physicists, whatever, are being killed, murdered by foreign enemies that have operatives set up right here in the United States that can take you out like that. So I hadn't written a letter to the president as yet, but all of a sudden I said, I'm doing it. And I had already met a man who had been in the Second World War who asked me to write a story about him because he was fixing to die. And he did go ahead and die. Very sad, because I became good friends with this old man. But he told me some things that he learned during the Second World War that he said was happening again right now here in America. I'm being told all this stuff, so I know I'm not the only person this is happening to, but there's many people that's dead that's done as these men that contacted me have done, like the man telling me, he was telling me about his enemy nationals that are from his nation that wanted to kill him. Other people were telling me they were terrified. I had one man that I contacted in Dallas that was very high up. He was involved in Hollywood. He was involved in politics. And I gave him a copy of the letter and the package I made that I'd sent to the president. I said, let me give you this here. And I said, I want to write that story because I promised this old man that I would tell his story. And I want to try to have a movie made out of it because he died before I could get all his information. But I did get enough information that I want to keep my promise to him and tell his story. And I gave the man the package, and that man called me that night. He was bawling. He was in tears. He was frantic. He was panicking. This was a highly educated man that's very well off. He's involved in Hollywood, involved with politicians, and suddenly he is in terror. And he's screaming what to me over the phone? Why did you send me this? Why did you involve me in this? Now I must talk to these people. Now I must go talk to these people. He's screaming. I said, what are you talking about? Who you got to talk to? These people that you're writing about, they're crazy. Why did you involve me in this? I said, oh my God, I'm running into this crap everywhere I turn. Now this is a different, complete different nationality, a complete different body of Americans that are from other countries. And this man is now certain that he's going to die for me merely sending him this package, the same package that I sent the President of the United States. I'm going out in the city, and I've noticed just doors down from my house. I'm noticing this Muslim man and his friends, they're making a fortress out of his house. I said, now let me see. I've had a Pakistani man tell me his people's coming here to destroy America. I have people terrified to talk to even people in Hollywood or in Washington. I said, let me see here. I've got a man down the street from me that is building a literal fortress around his house. I said, okay, I'm still thinking, what should I do? What should I do? Then suddenly I go down the street to a store that I frequented, and as I'm going in the door, an Oriental, I don't know if he was Chinese, Vietnamese, Japanese, so I must say Oriental, a man standing outside the door of the store, and as I'm going in the store, he's standing there with his head down, and as I go by, he says, be careful. I said, what the shit? I go in the door, get my stuff at the store, and I walk back out the door, and as I walk by the man again, he says, sir. I said, be careful. I turn around, I said, what are you talking about? He said, be careful. Then he just hustles off, just, takes off walking real fast down the street. I said, I have been asleep. I said, my people are asleep. I said, whenever you watch the news at night, you see all these Hollywood dignitaries and all these Hollywood people and all these people from these other nations and talking about the racism and the prejudice of America, and America just don't want to feed them and give them a new dream, to take a dream from an American and make it their dream, just take an American's dream, put them living on the streets, and give their dream to a foreign nationality of some nation, some foreign nationalist, whatever the case may be, and do that for them. And I thought that was what was the basic story of what was taking place. But there is a society, a battle taking place underneath the surface of America's society, a secret movement that's been taking place for decades after decades, many different countries setting up to destroy America, to destroy us in chaos. And after that takes place, then America becomes Mexico, because the economy's gone in war. In that case, America becomes Pakistan, becomes Iraq, becomes Africa, becomes these nations, because it's not the dirt, the soil of the country that you live in, or what continent that it is connected to. It's what people run that country. When you see a nation that's failing, a nation that is crumbling, and you see they have rich people living there, but yet the wages, and they have economists, and they have all their scientists, they have all these things, their own technology, their own cities, their own government, they're taking in taxes from the people, they're paying people 10 cents an hour, and it's because they are tyrants. If America falls and the Constitution falls, suddenly America becomes a place, after whoever survives, after the world goes into chaos, because America's economy and America's armies and everything help protect many other nations, after America would fall, if it would fall, the world would be in chaos and 10 cents would be high dollar wages. If you would be fed would be a beautiful thing. And that's what they're working towards, the destruction of America. And then when I contacted the White House, I received no return contact. I said, what's going on here? And this is before 9/11. And I was having a hard time sleeping. I said, what have I allowed myself to do and my young family growing up? What can I do? I said, now I've contacted the White House and I've received no contact in return. So I said, what's going to go down here? What's happening? Then suddenly, bam, 9/11. I said, oh my God, man, this Pakistani man told me that they've come here and they want to destroy us. And I've run into men that's been asleep on properties, hiding among Hispanic people. And this guy now tells me that these Pakistanis are paying Mexicans in Mexico to help, break them into America, help them break into America by bringing them through their secret tunnels and all these things that they use to bring illegals into this nation. But they're also bringing bad actors into America. They're bringing horrible, very terrible people into America that want to destroy us. And they're planning on it. They're setting it up right now. And I know for a fact that many of the Mexicans from Mexico are preparing for the revolution. But what they don't understand, truly, is if they break out and start attacking America from within, suddenly the Muslims come out. Suddenly the Kushites, the Africans begin to come out. And suddenly there's chaos in the streets. There's fighting in the streets, murder, rape, destruction. And the first that will be going down is the ones that are closest to them that have helped them take over America by getting them guns, by getting them access to certain places they shouldn't be accessing. But let's get that picture here. But remember, I told you this was going to lead to something strange. Now, I've told you every man I ever run into that was Hispanic that had anything going illegally, he would tell me, get me guns. I even had one man try to threaten me into getting him guns. He told me, man, I'll give you money, man. Just go buy your guns. And he said, 6 months from now, a year from now, you can turn them in as stolen. Just give them to me. He said, so I can take them to Mexico. And I said, okay. And I'm thinking, well, man, why do you want this? And he just boldly told me, for the coming revolution. And he seen my long hair. I had long hair at the time and everything. I guess he thought I was some kind of liberal who would join right in with him, Yeah, let's bring this place down. And I'm thinking, this ain't right. This is weird. I said, why every time I meet one of these people that are dangerous, dealing drugs, murdering, whatever the case may be, I'm in a circle of men, and a group of people that are socializing with these men, and suddenly I find one night I have to talk to him. Now, one of these men, years before, when I was a very young man, put 2 guns in my chest, told me, I'm now going to kill you. And I was drunk. Shouldn't be drunk at that age, but I was 15 years old, 16 years old, whatever the case may be. And, I met this man early in those years, met him through Roy Perez and his brothers. Goes on like that. And I still had this circle of friends that grew and grew and grew. But this particular man was associated with this man called Wolf. He was a murderous, chaotic little guy. He was maybe 5 foot tall. He had scars on every inch of his face, scars running across his eyes, scars all over his arms and everything, where he had fought madly in Mexico, where he's fighting and abusive to people in Mexico. And he's got those guns in my chest, and he says, I'm going to kill you. And it was over some woman, some girl. And he was in his, probably mid-20s, maybe 30 years old. I was around 15, 16. But he had those guns, and he cocks them, and I'm cussing him. I'm so drunk, I'm cussing him. And suddenly, Roy Perez, John Martinez, Eddie Granados, people like this come over and grab him and say, man, come on, they're saying, man, please don't shoot him. Please don't shoot him, man. And he said, get him out of here. And I'm saying, you effing this, you effing that. I'm calling him. And my friends dragged me off. And the moment they dragged me off, as we're making the corner, we hear the guns start going off. And what happened is the girl that we was there, one of the guys I was with was trying to get to know this girl, but he didn't want me, the young white man, to be around this girl, so he was going to kill me. But as we made the corner, he shot the stepfather of the girl we was there, shot him in the eye and shot him in the throat. Fortunately, he survived. It didn't go through his brain or anything. But that is the man that just had those 2 guns in my chest. And I can't figure that. The Lord, with me, he had those cocked in my chest. And if he'd have pulled the trigger, I would not be here. I wouldn't have no family or anything. But he went on to kill several people before he went back to Mexico. Him and his brother were cutting, shooting everybody they could, mostly Hispanic people. That's what most people don't realize, and a lot of Hispanic do realize this, and they vote Republican, but they kill more Hispanics than they do whites, than they do Cushites. They kill more Hispanic people, Tex-Mex people, because they fight with them very often. They think if they don't have enough accent, or if they don't love and want to join the revolution, that they'll go ahead and kill them. And they do quite often. They'll kill them, rob them, and figure because they're illegal too, or not an American citizen, that they can kill them and get away with it. So these are horrible people. Fast forward again to these men that were associated with men like Wolf, and they wanted me to get them guns. I said, man, this is probably the 4th or 5th time I've been told by these bad actors, get them guns. And then fast forward again to this day and time. Now, what does Obama and Eric Holder do when they become elected officials? They met with Mexico. They met with leaders in Mexico. Suddenly, they come up with this thing called Fast and Furious, to where they're going to put tracers in all of these thousands of guns, very sophisticated weapons that they sold and shipped to Mexico because they wanted to catch all these people that would buy these guns. But guess what happened? None of the guns tracer would work. Now, this day you can trace my computer. You can trace my wife's watch. You can trace our cell phones. You can trace our cars with no problem at all. But they supposedly, Obama and Eric, after meeting with Mexican officials, sent thousands of guns to Mexico. They said that none of the GPS tracers would work to find the guns, so that's all over with. No, I'm going to tell you this. Eric Holder, Barack Obama, after meeting with those Mexican officials, those Mexicans said, hey, Barack, can you get us any guns? And Barack and Eric said, what will you do for us? Well, you want money or do you want drugs? I imagine they got both. They got some very high quality cocaine and they got some money, and then they sent those weapons to Mexico, to bad actors, to help them prepare for the day they attack America. That is the great men of the Democratic elected officials. They're literally making a deal that a little strawberry blonde, my hair would go strawberry blonde on me when I worked in the ditches of America, when I worked in the sun, working on roofs and everything. I refused to get them guns, even threatened me, and I refused to get them guns. And the so-called president of the United States and the head officer, the head lawyer, or whatever you want to call Eric Holder, they colluded with Mexico and sent them weapons of mass destruction, of murder and chaos for when the revolution begins. And they know why they sent them there, and they were paid by Mexico with either drugs, money, or whatever they asked for. Women, they offer you women. They offered me women. Hey, you want to go to that? Me, a young man. Hey, man, I want you to get me guns, man. Get me plenty of guns. Every time you see a gun, get it for me, man. I'll pay you back for it. Hey, you want this woman? I'll give you this woman. And you want women? I'll give you this woman. I'm a young man. I said, dude, I don't mess with guns. I've always believed, live by the gun, die by the gun. I don't mess with guns. Hey, man, I'm telling you, I'll buy them back from you. Go get them in your name. Go get me guns, and I will buy them back from you. I said, I don't mess with gunmen. Sorry. Eric Holder, Barack Obama, met with Mexican officials, and then just weeks later, Fast and Furious is born. They gave for the coming revolution. There is a society living underneath, a secret society living underneath the society of America, to where when you see them on camera, when you see them in politics, you see them anywhere, they're saying, oh, please help us. You're just racist. You're just this. You're just that. When in reality, there is everywhere from China to Mexico to South America to Pakistan. All these nations have an under the surface secret society taking place where they know that they're working their way towards the destruction of America and chaos. Well, what did our President Donald Trump just find out? It was back after 9/11 happened. I felt bad. I felt horrible. And I said, man, my family's in danger. My nation's in danger. I kept thinking, I said, well, man, I'm risking my family here. I'm risking my life. I said, what do I do? What do I do? This is when George Bush was in office. I finally said, okay, I'm going to the Dallas Bureau of the FBI in person and see what I can get done and see if my information will help them. So I got to the FBI. Now, almost 20 years ago, 17 years ago, I get to the FBI. I sat down and they said, what can I do for you? I said, sir, I said, here's a package. I had copies of this, the letter that I sent the president. I said, here's a copy of the letter I sent to the president. I said, I've got a list of people in there that I've mentioned. And, I just want to make sure that you get this because I never heard from the White House or anybody. And this was before 9/11. I said, there's some very bad people wanting to do some things to us here. And I started telling him about the people. Then all of a sudden he jumps up and he said, what is your name again? And I told him my name. He says, I'll be right back. I said, okay. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking around, and I'm starting to examine this huge office I'm in. And I started looking over my glasses. I was prescribed sunglasses as a young man because my eyes were so damaged. And I'm sitting there in my sunglasses and I'm looking around the office and I'm looking around. And a big chill came over my chest because I realized that 80% of the people in that office were from these nations that I was talking about to this agent. He come out there and he says, Mr. Berry, I want you to wait around here. My boss is in a meeting right now. And I said, yeah. He says, I want to know about these people right here. And I said, oh my God. I said, that's the people that the guy was screaming. Why did you tell me about these people? And I mean, he went berserk. Well, anyway, I stood up and I said, no, I think I want to go ahead and I'm just going to leave. If you guys need me, here's my phone number. And he says, Mr. Berry, I'm saying I want you to wait. And I said, my friend, you've got my phone number, you've got my address. And I just kept walking. And he followed me towards the elevator. And he said, you don't seem to understand. I'm asking you to wait here. And I said, sir, I've got some business to take care of. You know my address, you know my phone number. Get in touch with me. The elevator door opened. I got on the elevator and he's standing there looking like these FBI agents that are now under oath and thinking they can grit their teeth and growl at the Congress and all these things. So our FBI has been FB Live for quite a few years now, long before I went to them. They're having an agenda. They're helping make people disappear. They're helping making people be silent. But I was alone. I contacted the president. contacted everybody. I went to my house, began to think about it, and days later, I was standing looking out my back window of my home, and it happened. A car drove by behind my house. There was two elderly people in the house, but they were filming my house as they went. My back windows, you couldn't see in them because we had sunblock on the window. I could see out, but you couldn't truly see in. And as I'm looking out the back window, this old man and old woman drive by my back door slowly filming me. I said, well, this is a beautiful thing. So I'm glad I seen this, you know. So I said, something's going on here. A couple weeks later, I see people over in a parking lot across the street. They're filming me and checking out things. I'm thinking, now let me get this straight. I go tell them about Pakistani bad actors. I go tell them about Hispanic bad actors. I go tell them about Cushite bad actors. I go tell them about bad actors in Hollywood. And the person they're wanting to stop is me. Boom. Bells going off in my head. I said, oh my God, what have I done? I went to the worst people in America. I thought the Cushites from Africa were the ones to be, or from Jamaica, or from wherever, the ones that were to be seriously worried about. I thought the Hispanic revolutionaries were the ones I should be immediately concerned about. I thought the Pakistanis, all these other nationalities, all these other nations, I thought they were the ones I was to be concerned about when they had already taken over a large portion of our secret services, calling themselves Americans, calling themselves Christians, whatever the case may be. But now they had made it all the way up into the higher echelon of the secret services of America. Well, I went into panic mode. I didn't know what to do. I said, I am now against the entire, it's me against the world. You know, Rodney against the world. I was thinking of my wife the day she told me, please don't mail this letter to the president. She asked me. She begged me. I said, baby, this is my country. I said, baby, I've got to mail this letter. She ripped it out of my hand, threw it under the bed. She was adamant about it. Rodney, please don't do this. I said, baby, I've got to. And I did it. And I went through a running battle, verbal, but then battled with them for months after that. And I didn't sleep at night. I stayed up at night to protect my family. I would pray to God. I said, Lord, please. I wouldn't get no gun. I said, I live by the gun, I die by the gun. But I always had these ornamental swords in my house. I had my staff, my clubs in the house, you know, different things like that. And I'd say, Lord, please allow me to at least take out 2, 3 of these animals that think they can secretly destroy the lives of millions of innocent human beings while they're whining and crying. Give me your dream. Give me your land. Give me money. Give me education. Give me all these things. Now, again, I tell you, there are good among these people, but they must start standing against the bad actors in their own. They must be turning in these people. They must be telling these people, I will not let you destroy this land that took my family in, that has fed us, educated us, gave us free housing, gave us a job, gave us a dream, took a dream from an American and gave it to us. I'm not going to let them attack these great people, these innocent people. I'm not going to let them do it. Instead, they fear them, they help them, they promote them, and many of them are part of this secret agenda. So why did I become a Republican? I refused to vote. I never voted in my life till George Bush came into office. Never did I vote. Never wanted to. That's what my family couldn't understand. I would come home, and I used to be the father that would walk in the door and say, hey, kids, what cartoon are we going to watch tonight? I thought a father's duty in America and on earth was to get off work, watch cartoons with his children, wait till his children get tired, leave the adult children to watch the infant children, and then take your wife out to dinner and that is what life consisted of in America and on earth. I am to be a father and a husband, and the great FBI. I used to have the utmost respect for the FBI, the CIA, the police department, all these things. And then I began to run in bad actors in the police, in this FBI. I assume the CIA knows about me because I contacted the White House. I still contact them. I keep them informed. But they were coming against me very strong. And then I finally had this last minute idea. So when they contacted me and said, we want to come talk to you. And I said, why is that? They said, we want to set up some things in your home. And I said, what do you want to set up in my home? We just want to monitor you for a while. And I told them, I said, monitor me. I said, I told you about people that are right now trying to take over America. They've attacked us now, 9/11. And you want to monitor me? I said, no, I don't want you in my home. And they said, well, we want to talk to you again. Come down to our house. I said, no, I've had my talk with you. I said, I've mailed letters to the president. I brought you copies of the letter. I said, I don't want to deal with you anymore. And they said, well, okay, we'll see. And they hung up the phone. I said, okay. I thought. I said, okay, I made many, many copies of that letter that I dropped off to them, the letter to the president. I made many copies of it. I got stamps. I sealed them up, and I mailed a copy of that out with another letter with me written in there and told them, keep an eye on me. I mailed it out to the British embassies, to the Chinese embassies, to the Norwegian, every embassy in America. I mailed it to the parliaments of these nations. I told them, when I die, if I die, you know this is what's going on in this world, in your nation, in my nation. I said, man, I set out to make people aware of this, and now I'm telling you there is some bad things going on, and I want your eyes open, and if anything happens to me, or if anything happens to my family, remember, if I didn't kill these men, I find that I want you to do so. Reap revenge for me is all I knew to say. And I even mailed a copy of this again to the FBI and the White House. Next thing I know, heads were rolling. The FBI bureau in Dallas went through major changes. They fired the guy I talked to. Because I put his name and everything. Remember, here's the head man at the FBI. Remember, here's this other agent. Here's this agent. And I mailed it off to them, and they were all fired. But nobody else contacted me again. I contacted the White House, contacted them, and I still do regularly. I even contacted the White House when Obama was in there. Me making sure that it rings out that America needs to be the land of the free, home of the brave. Me, a poor, basically, middle income man at the time, helping support his wife and sister, my mother and sister and my family. And I'm turning down big money. I'm turning down free women. I'm turning down quality drugs if I would get them guns. If I would get them guns. What did Obama and Eric Holder do the moment they got in office? They sent Mexico, for the coming revolution, high caliber weapons, truly, of mass destruction, and sent it over there and said they did it, and accidentally their scheme didn't work, so they sent all these Army-issued, Marine-issued, government-issued automatic weapons, rocket launchers, all these things to Mexico. And they done it because the moment they come to office, the Mexican officials that they met with weeks before, Obama and Eric Holder said, sure, I want me some women, and I want some of that good cocaine, and yes, I want me some cash, and we're going to send you some great, fantastic weapons here. That is what's happening. While then when they go in front of the camera, it's your racism. It's because you're prejudiced. You don't want us to let the borders open because you're racist against these poor Mexican people. When we're supposed to have our borders sealed because there's people in Mexico charging Chinese, Russian, Pakistani, Indonesian, whoever wants to come across the Mexican border, if you pay them money, they'll bring you over and you become an illegal immigrant from China, Pakistan, and you're part of the army of the coming revolution. So I meant for this to be a short tape, but as you can see, it can't be short. Short, excuse me. Jaw was broken when I was a small boy, fractured and dislocated. So my speech is affected. But I am a Republican. If Barack Obama come into office and say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm closing our borders. There are bad people coming across our borders. They want to destroy this America. They must come through legally. Anybody comes through the legal channels and is vetted are Americans. Like Donald Trump says, they must come over if they have merit. No, not army soldiers sneaking in from Pakistan, army soldiers sneaking in and setting up from Mexico, from South America, from any of these nations. No, they're supposed to come through the channels, and they're Americans. They've come through the channels of becoming a legitimate immigrant and then an American citizen. If Barack Obama was doing this, I would be a Democrat. But turns out Bill Clinton, he talked a story and then he started giving away our people. President Carter, he wanted to end all vetting and he wanted to, just let anybody into the country. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to become a Republican to save your family, your people. And remember, if you go to talk to anybody, contact me or contact somebody you love to let them know so they can tell anybody in case you become missing. There are people that turn up missing and everybody's wondering about. All they did is ask a question of their boss. All they did is send a letter to the president. All they did is contact the FBI. And if they asked the wrong question, they disappeared. They mention a statement that's going to open up them, the people that are now running divisions of our secret services, of our armed forces. They're setting up, wanting this to turn into a ball of fire and chaos. Then their nations fall. Then the world goes into chaos. Then they find out, well, we were dumber than we thought, but still they're working their way towards this goal. So why am I a Republican? Any man that I can believe and feel is telling the truth, that says he stands for America, he's got my vote. Any man that takes office, even before his office, starts saying, no, I'm for Iran. No, I am for China. No, I am for Mexico. Then I know this man is giving guns to Mexico. He's sleeping with a lot of beautiful women. He's doing a lot of quality drugs. He's taking a lot of cash. And he's endangered your family and friends. My name's Rodney Berry. That is the brief tale. I'm fine. I stood against them and they cracked, busted. Don't know what to do with me. Those people, like I say, this is almost 20 years ago. And me and my family's fine. But how many men, how many women have disappeared because they didn't notify enough people that they had contacted? They was going to interview me. Well, who else have you told this? Well, how many people know about this? Naturally, people go on their internet. Well, they're asking me this. Okay, well, I just told my wife. I just told my coworkers. I went to where I told everybody. Drop them off a package. Here, read this. And I told them. And they had people contact. I contacted embassies. I contacted parliaments. I told them when I sent them the letter, I said, do me a favor. Send a copy of this to the FBI. Do me a favor. Send a copy of this to the president. And inside that envelope, I said, to all those that think they want to watch me, I told them, watch me destroy you. Watch me crush you. And they went silent because I sent out hundreds. I quickly did. And I didn't tell my wife anything about it. After that, I said, "Oh, baby, nothing's wrong, baby. Nothing's wrong. Everything's going to work out. I'm out of this. I'm just researching. I'm trying to find the cure for aging, which I had already found some of the causes, but I was working at night trying to keep my studies going and my research going, and then I was battling with every no good in America at night and on the weekends and during the day. I would see somebody take a picture of my house or something. I ran out and I chased them down the street. I'd hop in my car, chased them down the street, followed them. So they pull over and panic, and then I contact them. I said, "Get around my house again, man, and I will make sure all of you are gone." And they got away from me. Now that I'm just their nightmare. I'm what they wake up to at night and say, "Man, how did that dude get us all fired?" And he was nobody. How did that man blow our operations away in Dallas? And he was a no one. Because I stood strong for my country, and I didn't fold. I could have folded in terror and say, "Okay, please, please," and then they would take my life and maybe even my family. Instead, I said, "I'm going head to head with these men." And now, years later, what am I? I am a Republican. You find you a Democrat, and he's an honest man, truthful man, comes in running for office and says, "I'm going to close these borders. I'm going to break up these revolutionaries. We're going to deport everyone we can prove is giving weapons to Mexico, including Obama and Eric Holder." And suddenly, Rodney votes Democrat. Suddenly, Rodney votes independent. Suddenly, I become a liberal. Whoever is standing for my family, for my people, for my country, and closing our borders, and doing all they can for my people, trying to give my people dreams so they can overcome these people that literally come here thinking they can destroy us, and then they can just keep these companies going and keep this industry going that they've infiltrated across America. There are many good immigrants. They better start standing against the ones they're afraid of. I told you the story of the woman in the apartments who finally, when she was terrified, she admitted that she was scared to tell anybody about the Arab terrorist that was threatening her almost every week because he thinks he can. After 9/11, out there in Irving, Texas, and around that area where I had stood against that man, him after me with a machine gun, they all were arrested and were part of the 9/11 plot. Many of the men out around DFW airport because they were planning to do that there. Because of no goods, because of weaklings in office, Democrats that have sold our people for gold, for money, for drugs, for women. They disgust me. They're disgusting. Hillary Clinton and her husband just sold uranium and said when she got into office she would open our borders and they could overtake our nation. And she got $150 million put in her bank while in office. A direct law made against that called treason. You cannot be treasonous. She took millions while in office, her and Obama. This is disgusting. They're imperiling your family. They are imperiling your people, your country. They're trying to take away your dream. My name's Rodney Berry. This went a lot longer than I planned. But remember, I kicked their ass, sent them running. You do the same with your vote. You do the same with your writings. They're terrified of me. I've told them, "Hey, I want to meet with you today." I was just pulling their chain. They didn't contact me back. I said, "Ha. Hey, I want to meet with you guys today." Ha. They thought they was taking me over. I took them over. Be strong. Become a Republican. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you're Cushite. I don't care if you're Chinese. I don't care if you're Hispanic. I don't care where you come from. Do not let them destroy this land, because then suddenly a disaster the world goes into chaos and everyone's starving, murdering one another. The stability of America, the stability of our allies is all that keeps us from being murdered and our dreams ending today. That's why I became a Republican. My name's Rodney Berry. Have a good day.